Hey guys, welcome back to the Silver Motion. Today, I wanted to put together a top 5 MCU list, my top 5 favorite MCU movies. Initially, I wanted to just do a top 3, but the more I thought about the movies, the more I realized that there's at least 5 movies from the MCU that I keep watching year after year. Some of them I watch even more than once a year. Keep in mind, I will not be making a full review of each movie. I'm mainly going to try to point out the reasons why these movies made it to my top 5 list. I know that this list comes not in the best circumstances when it comes to the MCU and what's been coming out lately, but I'm pretty sure if you guys have enjoyed the ride, kind of like I did with so many great MCU movies, I'm pretty sure you will appreciate this list. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you will agree with it. Some of you will disagree, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. All right, here we go. These are my top 5 MCU movies. Number 5, Endgame. I already know I'm going to get a lot of heat for this one, but after rewatching all of these movies, I realized that simply out of the 5, this one is the one that I like the least. Okay, so keep in mind, this is just the one I like the least out of my favorite movies from the MCU. So out of the 5 I love the most, this one is number 5. Endgame is such a hard movie to put together, such an incredibly hard task to perform. The end of something bigger than life. Did they pull it off? Absolutely. This is such a big movie. The issue with this movie is it had to follow Infinity War, which is something I certainly would never attempt to do. Talk about being a brave movie director. Very tough choices were made in order to create this movie, in order to make it as big and epic as it could possibly be. And one of the issues that we get out of having Infinity War and Endgame put together is that anything that comes after that is going to be, and unfortunately for us, was a significant drop in quality when it comes to the movies that came after that and the TV shows that came after that. Again, guys, I am not saying you're not allowed to like She-Hulk better than Infinity War. I'm not saying something like that, to each their own. Everybody has their own taste. But I'm pretty sure from an objective point of view, the overall quality of the MCU significantly dropped after Endgame. Let's think of Endgame as a stock chart, for example. When you compare this movie to Infinity War, the peaks and valleys of said chart are much higher and much lower. Infinity War has a nice and slowly stable uptrend all through the movie, while Endgame is a bit more all over the place. The lows, the part of the movie that don't work, can take you out of the experience real quick, but the peaks, oh boy, those home run scenes are so powerful. Maybe Infinity War is a better movie all the way through, but when Endgame is at its best, it is unbeatable. So, I just wanted to mention a few things that didn't quite land for me. One of the characters that simply don't work for me is Dr. Hulk. Long story short, he just has this condescending demeanor about him, and I just didn't enjoy him on screen. Another thing that didn't quite land for me was the whole time heist. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't a very smooth idea. Another thing that didn't land is the fact that Thanos becomes more of a standard MCU villain in this movie compared to Infinity War. And I guess overall, you can start to feel a little bit of that MCU Phase 4 feel in this movie, in which I don't know. Some of the jokes are completely out of place. The way they treat Thor in this movie, the way I don't know, the way they handle his depression and PTSD, it's kind of like, and don't get me wrong, I like some dark humor, okay? Like, I'll make fun of anything pretty much. First thing, I'll make fun of myself, but just the way they do it in this movie, it doesn't, it just doesn't work for me. And this becomes a trend on all future MCU movies after this one. It's like out of place jokes kind of thing, just for the sake of like a easy laugh. But don't worry, guys, it's not all negative, of course, because this is one of my favorite movies. So I want to talk about some of the positives here. These are things that make my life better every single time I watch this movie. Number one is Tony. There's just too much here to elaborate. If you've watched the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Uh, it is definitely one of my favorite Robert Downey Jr. performances ever. The power of transmission that he has in this movie, it's incredible. There's just, again, too much to say for the type of review that I'm trying to do here. I'm keeping it, try to keep it short and to the point for you guys. Also, coming back to depression, PTSD, the fact of what they went through because of Infinity War. I really like how they handle Black Widow when it comes to how she's dealing with it. I truly felt that was a very realistic way of, showing how someone would deal with such a tragedy, especially someone like Black Widow, someone with so much power and so much responsibility. Another glorious thing to mention, of course, is the final action scene. And here I come with spoilers, of course, as I mentioned in other videos. If they're not brand new movies, there are going to be some spoilers when I talk about them. Tony's death. When Tony dies, and you can tell he's there, but he's not. He's slowly just dying. And his wife is just, looking at him and just asking him, like, Tony, look at me, we're going to be okay. It was perfection. I love that scene. I love how it's delivered. Brings a tear to my eye every time I watch it. Like, I mean, it's that powerful. It's perfectly done. It's one of those scenes where when they got done and they filmed that shit, everybody was like, that's it, wrap it up. Like, we cannot do any better than that. It was one of those. So, and of course, at the very end of the movie, when we get to see Steve Rogers dancing with the love of his life, that's the moment in the movie where I realized that I need to grab some water because I'm freaking dehydrated from crying so much. But yeah, those are some of my favorite things about this movie. On number 4, we have Iron Man. The beginning of it all. This is where an empire with over 30 movies under its belt started. That's if you don't count all the Marvel TV shows that have come out since this movie was first brought to audiences. In the name of all Marvel movie fans out there, and honestly, in the name of movie fans in general, I would like to thank director Jon Favreau for not only putting together one of the coolest movies that I've ever seen, but we need to thank this man for pushing and pulling all the strings necessary to get Robert Downey Jr. cast as Tony Stark. I won't get into details, but apparently the studio was pushing very hard for other actors to take on the role because RDJ was going through some personal issues, and to put it in simple terms, the studio saw it as a big gamble at the time to go with Tony. Tony. I'm sorry, man, but when a performance is so freaking seamless, there's no way you're acting. That was you. I absolutely love the symbology.
With symbolism, what is the
of the arc of this hero, which is something that newer MCU movies are missing or simply not executing correctly. The hero of the story can't be perfect from beginning to end. Not only do they need to be flawed, they need to be relatable. Somehow, this movie takes a genius, billionaire narcissist and makes him completely relatable to us. We also get to watch him grow as a character, learn from his mistakes, open his mind to different views. We literally watch this guy evolve while keeping his main qualities intact. At the end of the movie, we know he is very much still a genius billionaire narcissist, but his heart, his core, quite literally speaking, is that of a total different human, someone willing to sacrifice themselves for a total stranger. And on a side note, I have to say it, I just gotta say it. When it comes to Iron Man CGI, when it comes to the way that suit looks, I'm sorry, but it's never looked the same ever since. Like, the first movie, it's never been matched. Like, there's CGI coming out today that does not look as good. Like, when I watch the first Iron Man movie and I see that suit, like, it's almost like you can feel it. Like, you're watching it and you're like, I know what that feels like if I touch it. You know? I just have to say it. Best CGI when it comes to Iron Man suits ever. It was made in 2008. It's still holding up. I don't know, man. Like, if I see the freaking Iron Man suit in the movie and then I watch a Tesla commercial, I can sense the Iron Man suit more than the Tesla, even though the Tesla is a real thing. It's a real vehicle. Say Tesla or any vehicle out there. But that's how good the CGI is. It's incredible. And finally, we arrive to the top 3, and here it comes. Number 3, Thor Ragnarok. On number 3, we have Thor Ragnarok. And long story short, this is my favorite Thor movie. That is how much fun this movie is. And in part, thanks to Taika Waititi choices as a director. It's just a blast from beginning to end. So, I do not know this guy personally, but he seems to be just one of those people with an endless sense of humor. Like, you know, he can make a joke out of anything. You know, that's especially with follow-up Thor Love and Thunder, which, by the way, I truly didn't like that much, and it seems like most MCU fans didn't also like it. But you could tell with Thor Ragnarok, just a little bit of the type of guy this director is. And then with Thor Love and Thunder, they just, you know, they set him free. They're like, you know, fly free, you know, do whatever you want. And he got pretty crazy, but funny nonetheless. When you hear about this movie, the word fun, quote unquote, is always present in the conversation, as it should. But I like to talk about a different side of the movie. I like to use a different word to describe it, and the word is honest. That honesty being mainly displayed by Chris Hemsworth. Up until this point, we had never seen a Thor like this. Sadly, we may never see it again. To describe Hemsworth's performance, let's just say it's completely organic. It's almost as, you know, he's just playing himself. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall during the making of this movie, because when you watch it, it truly seems like there's this sense of comfort between the whole cast and crew. Like, you can almost perceive it through the screen that everybody's just chill. Everybody's having a good time making this movie. I don't know if you feel the same way. But if you haven't noticed that, go watch the movie again and let me know if you can kind of sense that. It's like everybody's just like, you can tell everyone is filming in a good mood. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, they're just in a good, solid mood while they're filming this movie, and we, the audience, get to rejoice. So yeah, while it's a very fun ride, at the same time, it's a very relaxing movie to watch. It's a movie with very high stakes, very intense moments, and at times, even sad. but somehow you are in this happy place the entire viewing. That sense of comfort, chill, the great chemistry between the cast and crew jumps right out of the screen, grabs you, and just takes you into this once in a lifetime, full of heart and honest adventure. So, here we go with number 2, and we have Guardians of the Galaxy. After giving it a lot of thought and almost making this my number 1, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. This is such a special movie, and on paper, it almost sounds like something impossible to translate to the big screen, the way they did, and we do have to thank director James Gunn for pulling it off, because, wow, he really knocked it out of the park with this one. I know he has big projects ahead of him within the new DCU, and that it is without a doubt too early to tell, but this movie, Guardians of the Galaxy, might be his magnum opus. This might be it. We don't know if he can do much better than this, because this is the type of movie that will take somebody who doesn't like superhero movies, somebody who doesn't like science fiction movies, space movies. This movie will take that person and will keep them glued to the screen from the first scene to the last. I find this movie to be very poetic. Even more than that, I find this movie to be very romantic. And I am not talking about Star-Lord and Gamora. I'm talking about the whole underlying theme of the movie. The way this world and characters are presented to us really make you fall in love with this alternative reality in which it is a certainty that we are not alone in the universe, and that just like our own planet, what's out there is full of darkness, full of scary places and dangerous beings, but it's also full of wonders, funny characters, and life. It is the universe right out of the imagination of a child. A place where the scariest guy has the biggest heart. A place where a raccoon can be your best friend. A place where a talking tree will sacrifice his life to save yours. So, when I say that Guardians of the Galaxy is a very romantic movie, I truly mean that in the most universal sense of the word. And now, here comes number 1, Infinity War. So, I would like to use some type of metaphor here to explain the quality of this movie. If somebody were to ask me, which MCU movie is the closest to something like Braveheart? Which MCU movie is the closest to something like Gladiator? Definitely Infinity War is the movie that comes to mind. From a pure quality perspective, Infinity War is the highest caliber delivered by the MCU. So much that a movie like Endgame seems like a significant step down in quality, honestly, even though the movie is great. I absolutely love this movie, and even though it's a long one, it's about a 2.5-hour run, I truly believe this is one of those movies where you can just sit and watch it as if it was a short episode of some TV show you love. So something that I absolutely love about this movie is that it is a mix of a couple different things that I've spoken about before. That what I mentioned about a movie that demands your full attention and a background movie. After so many viewings, I've realized that this movie is both. You can just play it in the background and it'll be great, or you can just let yourself fall and be immersed fully into all of the wonders this movie offers. My only issue with this movie is that it's hard to watch as a standalone. 9 out of 10 times I watch it, I need to go right into Endgame. Other than that, when it comes to MCU movies, this is it. It doesn't get any better than this. That is just my humble opinion. Alright guys, again, this is the Silver Motion. Thank you so much for coming back. What I would like from you, if possible, just hit that like, subscribe, and if you want to go to the comments and let me know your top 5 MCU movies, I would love to read them. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.